Looking forward to speaking to you, having this conversation since I first had this idea to do this series. So I'm really excited and I'm prepared. So you do a lot of interviews, and we know you're in PR, and I'll let you speak on that. But this conversation is a little different. Like, I don't necessarily want to know about your work life balance. You share a ton of content on that. So just how would you how would you explain what you do simply so people can understand?
So I would say that my superpower is really storytelling. And that's why I got into the world of PR, storytelling and connections and understanding where and when those stories need to show up and how they can build a connection between the subject, the person or the brand and the world. And so what I do is really help people navigate what their unique story is and how they should bring it out into the world and help people, personal brands and physical brands, whether it's products, etc., show up in a space and really be disruptive, tell their story, and shine. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like the world of PR, and it's also just like my very, I think my very like natural love of what I do is just like a connector and a storyteller.
So how long have you been in PR?
For almost 2 decades, I've been in PR for about 17 years. I started my career in the world of actually like editorial on the editorial side. And I was like, no, I want to be the person that like makes the guest list, not the person that's just like waiting to be on the guest list. And I was like, well, what is that? And someone's like, that's the PR team. And then that's how I got into it.
Wow. So is this something like you knew growing up? Like, tell me like a little bit about your background, where you grew up.
Yeah. So I I didn't really know that I wanted to go into PR. I actually didn't really know even what PR was, if I'm being honest. I I'm a first generation Dominican. And when I was really young, I was like 13 years old, I went into a store, a CVS, and I was like walking around and I had no idea what products to get for my hair. I didn't know like what foundation matched my skin tone. I lived in like a very predominantly white town, and it just was very apparent to me that like the world of beauty,
Hmm.
they dictate how people feel about themselves. These brands are telling a story and they have a massive responsibility for what that story is because
Right.
people feel a certain way. That's how they connect with brands. It's how they feel about themselves. And so for me, kind of like walking around aimlessly trying to understand like where do I fit in, right? As someone with like really curly hair and darker skin, what does that mean for me? And what does that mean about like how I show up in the world? And what does beauty actually mean for someone like me? And so I was just always really interested in the beauty world from there. And I like had a natural knack for doing makeup and I loved skincare. And so I kind of got into that as I got older and in high school and in college. I was like always the one doing my friend's makeup. And then after college, I worked, again, I went into kind of more of the editorial side. I went out to LA and was writing because I was an English major. And the reason I was an English major was originally I was like, you know what, I'll go into law. I'm very
Hmm.
persuasive and I like to talk. And I think that that's like the world I'm just going to go into because the thing is, like, I feel like, especially back then when I was in college, it's like there were very like standard careers of, okay, you're a teacher, you're a lawyer. And that's what the like mainstream talked about. It's like the world of PR and marketing at the time was like still very elusive. Now I feel like that career is like everyone's talking about like whether it's social media or PR, communications or marketing.
It's everywhere.
But yeah, back then it really wasn't. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'll go and I'll be a lawyer and I'll like be persuasive in court. And I realized quickly that that was not my journey. And so I'm like, how can I still use these skills? And I love to talk. I love to connect with people. I love to build relationships. It's something that has like allowed me to like blossom as a person. And that's kind of like where I learned what a publicist really was, which is like a master connector.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of like how I jumped into it. And I specifically worked in beauty in the beginning, like part of my career, because of how passionate I was about being able to make a change from the inside out. And as the PR team, you have the opportunity to help a brand tell their story. And
Hmm.
so I felt like, okay, if I can help a brand tell their story, then I can be a part of this positive change in the world of beauty because a brand can use their voice for change and positive impact. So
Right.
it was, kind of like snowballed from there.
Yeah, it's really impressive that you were so self-aware at such a young age. Like you just didn't go with what was available and make it work. Like you actually had the insight and you realized like this doesn't work for me. Something's missing, and it's that gap in the market that people talk about when you're an entrepreneur. Like you have to look for that. And I shared a little bit of my story. I didn't actually see a gap. That's just me being completely vulnerable. But I think what I did see was people were craving connection, right? That was so. It's not necessarily like as direct as, well, this was missing. And you worked with some pretty high level brands, and Cicely Paris, Estee Lauder. Like you are, you're up there and you're doing the work. So, and I think like I I want to know like what you see missing in these brands, like the brands that operate at this level. What do you see missing? Like what do they? I mean, they get a lot of it right, but like what do you see?
So the biggest thing I see, honestly, is that no brand is necessarily purposely missing something, but the world has just changed so much. And so when we talk about a heritage brand, which is like what we consider like a legacy brand or a prestige brand, a brand that's owned by a larger conglomerate or a brand that's been around for a really long time, the biggest challenge that these brands are going to have is that the world is changing fast, and because they are so large, it takes a lot longer for them to essentially pivot or connect with the consumer in a different way. The demand that's happening now in the world in general is that people want to feel connected. People buy people, right? They don't buy product anymore. And the funnel has collapsed. The way they are receiving their information and purchasing a product is collapsed, right? They're no longer just going to a store, asking questions, and then leaving, and then going home and contemplating if they should get it, and then going back and searching online. It's all happening at once now. They're going from discovery to purchase much faster. And that's what I mean by the funnel collapsing. And because of that, brands have this opportunity to connect with the consumer in a different way. And so the biggest challenge that brands are facing now is how do we connect and make our brand feel approachable and feel personal when the brand is already so large. And it's not impossible. And that's what we coach our clients through every day is it's okay. You're not going to do it the same as like an indie brand that has a founder and like someone out there that's able to like go and personally connect with everyone, because that indie brand has just a completely different strategy and completely different resources. And they're kind of operating at a completely different level, whether it be financially or how much product they have available to them to use. But there's also like a lot of benefits to being a larger brand, right? The ability to seed a little bit more product, the ability to have some budget to put into things. You have a responsibility to a wider landscape typically. Your product is everywhere when you're at that scale,
Mhm.
globally. And so you have a bigger audience to serve. But brands just have to remember that no matter how big, people want to feel like they're the only part of their universe,
Mhm.
and then they want to connect with each other, the other people. And I talk a lot about this in the world of like community building. The brands that are doing it right are building communities. But what people forget when trying to build a community is that if you're trying to like connect with the community just to sell them something, it's really not going to work.
Mhm.
You need to connect with them to be serving them.
And you can
And
tell.
you can
People
totally
can.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can totally tell. And then the community needs to be essentially serving each other, right? The best type of community are the communities that bring together people, and the people are so connected with each other and they're helping each other and they're talking to each other, and that's fueling conversation. So really, like, brands have an opportunity to be facilitators of bringing together niche communities so that they can serve each other also. And that's another benefit.
So you share a lot about your personal life, and you have four kids, four beautiful kids. And how do you, I feel like this is a work-life balance question that I didn't want to ask. But like you show up you travel a lot, you're building. How do you keep that connection to yourself as a mom and as a wife and all these other roles that you play in your personal life? How do you separate that?
It's funny because I think that I would be lying if I said that I've always gotten it right. And because I haven't always gotten it right, I've kind of learned what's important. there are times in someone's life when they are building, when they are growing, when they are scaling a business, any of the things, climbing the corporate ladder, that at some point you have to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
I am not a believer that you can have everything all at once perfectly. I think that that's a myth. I think
Mm-hmm.
that you can have some things some days and some things other days, and you have to be willing to understand that that kind of that balance, right? Like, what are you okay with letting go today, and then that becomes the important thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about how like choices have consequences, and so many people get angry for the consequences in their life when it was a choice that they made. And
Mm-hmm.
so how I try to live my life is that if there was a certain choice that I made and there's a consequence tied to it, then I can't be angry about that consequence. I could be upset. So, for example, choice. I wanted to work. I wanted to start a company. I wanted to, now I'm climbing the corporate ladder. Like, I wanted to, I made the choice that like that was really, really important to me on top of having a family. And so I knew that at some point something would have to give, right? It's like you have to pull back in one area of your life. So I knew that if I wanted to have a family, I'd have to create an infrastructure to support that so that I could really work and do the things that I needed to do. And the consequence of that is that like I don't always get to see my kids, right? And that's sad, but I'm not angry about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get like sad and of course I miss them, but what I try to do is be really present for them when I'm home, and be really intentional about how I connect with them when I'm gone because I travel a lot for work. So it's all about like just being self-aware again, like being really self-aware, like what are my shortcomings as a mom, and like where can I fix them, and where maybe I can't fix them right now and like I have to cut myself some slack, and then where are there opportunities for me to like grow and get better. And also like when it comes to like my career, it growing and being really invested in my career was always like a non-negotiable because it made me feel me. And if I don't feel me, then I'm not the best mom anyway. And so it was like a pact I made with myself. Like the second I got pregnant with my daughter, my firstborn 7 years ago, I promised myself that I would become the woman that she needed to see in the world. And that
Mm-hmm.
was it. Like I made that promise,
Yeah.
and I knew the version of what that meant for me. And it's different for everybody, right? And for me, that meant that I wanted to like feel fulfilled in my career
Mm-hmm.
and show her that you can be working, growing a family, and doing all the things, and that you could also make an impact, right? Because it was never really about work for me. It's always about the impact that we could make through the
Yeah.
work that we
And you
do
can
and the
see
people
that.
that we
Yeah.
connect with. And so for me, that was kind of like, oh, great, I want to fulfill my mission so that she can have a mom that feels like fulfilled in that larger mission to create a better world.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of use that as my true north. And again, it's
Mm-hmm.
like not always perfect. And, she cries and she is, oh my God, she's giving me the guilt trip when I leave. But I try to
How
just
old is
explain.
she?
She's 7, and she's
7.
like
Okay.
really. So she's at that age
Mm-hmm.
where she's starting. Now even my son, who's 5, he's like starting to give me a little bit of the guilt trip too. So it's like I'm navigating a whole new world now because they're getting a little old.
Yeah.
But
So we have to talk about the Labubu because I think it's the sweetest thing. And for anyone who doesn't know, Chris brings this Labubu on her trips, all her trips, and you take videos. And I know you're very specific that you don't video call them, but you take videos, and I think that's so cool that you do that, and really smart because you don't know like what version of your kid you're gonna get that day. They
yeah.
may be upset when they see you. So like, was that something that you just found trial and error, like this worked, this doesn't?
What I realized for myself is that when I'm away from my kids, I already miss them. But when
Yeah.
I have made a decision to be away from my kids, I'm there for a reason and I want to get shit done. Right. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
like achieve whatever it is that I went there for. And so if I'm sad and I'm missing them and I'm disconnected to the thing that I'm actually doing, then that I'm also like not in service of them anyway. Right. Because now I went and I left them and I'm not even doing the thing that like I said I was going to go do at 100%. And so I made
Mm-hmm.
a very conscious decision that if that was going to be the life that I live and I'm going to have to like travel and be away from them, when I am here, I am very present here. And when I'm here, I am very present here. And that I need to find a way to merge the worlds so that everybody feels connected and doesn't feel either isolated or abandoned, but they also know like when mommy's at work, mommy's at work. right? And like I
Right.
need to switch that like work brain
Mm-hmm.
on so that
Mm-hmm.
I can go and do the things that I went to do. So the
Right.
Labubu really came from the place of, as my kids got older, they wanted to know where I was going. And because like when I'm at a work trip, it's like I'm busy. I'm on the ground. I'm usually like either speaking at something or I'm
Mm-hmm.
networking. And it's like I want
Yeah,
to
you
give
need
the
to shut
people
off.
that,
Yes.
yes, I'm like I need to be present with the people that I am with. And they wanted to kind of like experience the trip through their eyes. And like you said, I don't FaceTime them because it was very like destructive to the home to call, and then they would get upset, and then I would like feel upset because then it was like a whole, it just was like a snowball effect. And I was like, this is good for literally nobody. And my husband was like, Chris, this is like crazy. And
Yeah.
so it literally
Especially
happened.
not for
It
him.
was one time, happened one time, and once was enough for me. I'm like, we need to find a solution. And
Yeah.
so I encourage everyone always to find a solution that works for your specific family and the
Yeah.
kids' ages
Of
and all
course.
that. But the Labubu was really the solution. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can take their Labubu with me and I can have this Labubu cotton candy come all over the world with me, because it's like I was
Mm-hmm.
traveling to Japan or the Philippines or Orlando, and it was really fun, like to get to like show the Labubu on stage so that they can actually see what mommy does.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful. It was kind of like an extension of the book, the children's book that I wrote, The Adventures of Mommy Marvelous, because that was also just another tool for me to use to communicate with my kids that where is mommy going and why is she doing
Mm-hmm.
it? And being able to like share the adventures, but from their kind of frame of mind
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, the most interesting way for them to receive the information. So I always
Yeah.
try to be conscious of like, how are my kids going to receive the information best and what's going to make them feel excited instead of just sad, right? Because they're
Mm-hmm.
already sad. So it's like, let's make them
Right.
feel excited. Let's make them feel like they're a
Right.
part of it. And let's let them know that like mommy is thinking about you, even though I'm not calling you or texting dad to get on the phone with you all the time when I'm gone. I'm still thinking of you. And
Mm-hmm.
now you have like this fun kind of like adventure and show that you're watching that brings your doll that's like connected to you
Mm-hmm.
home with you. And then also like for
Right.
me, it's like nice to have a piece of them with me, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that you're speaking to this mom guilt that people talk about, like, female entrepreneurs who are mothers talk about all the time. And you're so right in saying that it's not good for anybody because you have to do what you're there to do. You're doing your job. And what I'm noticing is exactly like what that teenage girl, like how self-aware you were. You carry that throughout your life, and I think like that's key. Like people, even if you don't realize it now, you can stop now and like think back to things that you valued when you were growing up and kind of merge that into your professional life now. So like you were always a self-aware person. I don't know if you even thought about it, but you carry that. So you reconcile, this is my professional life, this is my personal life, and these are the things that we have to do, and it doesn't have to look the same way for everybody. So I think
Exactly.
that's really cool.
Well, thank you. And I also think that like this notion and this idea of mom guilt is like kind of a man-made construct, right? And like that might be like controversial to say, but I actually don't believe that mom guilt is a real thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
that women have forever felt sad that they missed their kids, and they're still trying to reconcile the fact that like they have something that they love that they're doing and the world has made them feel bad about
Mm-hmm.
picking that quote unquote over their children, when
Right.
in fact what we're actually experiencing is like maybe sadness or like a disconnect from our kids.
Yeah.
And the guilt comes from what the world is like telling us we should feel. And so like
Yeah.
I completely reject the notion of mom guilt because I try to just reframe it as, what are you actually feeling right now? Because I'm not feeling guilty that I'm doing the thing that I love. I'm
Right.
feeling sad that I might have to miss out on other moments with the human beings that I love the most in the world. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not guilt, because I would
Yeah.
feel way worse if I wasn't doing the things that made me me, because I would go back and I would be like a shell of myself, and I wouldn't be the best mom for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, instead, I think it's all about like having that self awareness to say, like, what am I actually feeling right now? Okay. And how can I take back my own narrative to make sure that like whatever I'm feeling like isn't actually just like making me feel worse about myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
this idea and this notion of like the mom guilt is, can be really like consuming. And listen, like we've all fallen down that path. Like we really have, but we can control that narrative more even in our own heads and of course
Right.
like out loud.
Yeah.
But
And I think also like we're setting examples for our kids, right? We're modeling how they, and they have to do things like they have to go to school, they have to go to their 100 classes that kids take, today.
Huh.
So like, what are you modeling for them? Like, if you're telling them I'm sad when I leave and I'm sad, it's not helping them because a lot of kids have anxiety when they have to go to school. So, this is how are you teaching them to react or to cope in those moments. So,
So I really just talk to my kids like about the honest realities and like we explore our feelings together. And that way they understand that like it's okay to have these feelings. It's not a bad thing. It's healthy and it's a part of like human beings. Like we have a range of emotions that we need to explore. And and that I think is like has always been this like consistent through line even with like the way I'm communicating with my kids now as my daughter asks more questions because she is like, Mom, I'm sad, I miss you, like you work so much, and that's really really hard to hear.
mhm,
But the next thing she will say is, but I know that you're trying to make a better life for us. I
mhm,
know that you love your job, and I know that you want to make the world a better place. And
mhm.
so because I've shared that with her, I've shared my why. I
She's learning
constantly
values too. Yeah.
she exactly. So it like it becomes a little bit easier to navigate and we can both kind of be like, I know, we're sad, we miss each other, but you know what? Isn't it so much fun when
Mhm.
we get to be back together? It's like good to
Yeah.
miss each other a little bit because that reunion is so much more fun. And so we just try to like reframe.
Hmm. So my mom remarried when I was 3, and she lived between Guyana and France, and I would be very sad when she was leaving again. And she always said, "Well, if I don't leave, I can't come back." And I mean, like, it really doesn't make that much sense, but I think in the moment it was just her finding a way to make it okay. But yeah, she would always say, if I don't leave, I can't come back. So like she gave me the coming back as
Yeah.
something to be excited about.
Yeah.
So
And she
yeah.
validated the fact that you were feeling sad that she was leaving, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's also like
Yeah.
kids just want to hear like some validation of their feelings too and
Oh,
to
of course.
understand that like that's, it's like a positive reframe. So I think
Yeah.
it's like the mixture of like the validation with the positive reframe that really helps. And so I try to like incorporate that where I can.
Yeah, it ties back to just human beings just want to feel seen. They want to be seen.
Yeah.
You want to feel significant and important. So that's, I think, yeah, when you have these conversations with your children, it doesn't matter how young they are. It's so important, and that's what they're going to carry throughout life.
Yeah.
Well, I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Right.
And so what's the difference between being visible and being remembered?
That's a great question. So being visible is that people see you, maybe see you a few places, see you speaks, like they're like, oh, maybe I recognize you because I must have seen you somewhere. Being remembered is the ability to have a story that like imprints in people's minds that when you walk out of the room, what do people say about you? Right. And to me, that difference is about consistency. You need to have a story that you're consistently telling in every room, and that's what's going to make you memorable.
Okay. And that can apply to your business, that can apply to just life.
Anything life, when you're connecting with people, when you're networking with people, it's like how strong is a good story? Like that's what's going to make people like remember you. Like a story that can connect you with the person that you're talking to, a room that you're talking to, a story that allows people to understand who you are. It's a rapport building mechanism, number one. And number two, it allows people to understand like what you stand for, or maybe that like you made them laugh or that they just felt some type of connection. And that goes a long way. And people remember how you make them feel. And so, like, whenever I coach somebody through storytelling or their own elevator pitch, it's all about, like, well, what's the point? How do you actually want to make them feel? And one of my
Yeah.
big things is like, I always like lead to inspire. And if I can inspire someone, even just one person in a room, then I feel like I've done my job. So for me, whenever I'm telling a story, it's like the purpose behind that always has to be to try to like inspire somebody to go out and be their best self.
What's one key thing you feel that makes a good story?
like a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? There needs to be like a story arc, right? So like something happened, there was either a challenge or a certain moment. There was like this like kind of you know, you're on this like roller coaster, and it's like, and then what happened, like where was the resolve and what was the lesson, right? Because there's always kind of like this friction that happens in a story, and then there's a resolve, and who's the hero at the end of it, right? And so to create kind of like the best story, it's like there has to be a purpose for the story, and it has to like tie back around, and that purpose could be anything from like, I just want to connect with these people in this room at like a happy hour, or like I want to sell my service. And
Right.
so, you know, with everything that you're saying, I mean, our time is finite, and people have the attention span of a goldfish. So it's important that you're like capturing their attention fast, and that you're like leaving a lasting impression on them, so that the work can continue to be done for you after you leave the room. So anytime that you connect with somebody, think about like how you can add value and how you could share kind of that story arc and that kind of like end resolution of what happened in a meaningful way.
Yeah, people love a good overcoming story. You know, that's really okay. So, what's something you've become less impressed by over time?
Hmm.
And it's okay if you can't think of some, like if
No,
there's not.
I mean, that's a really, really good question. Um, you know, I am a fan of people that work hard and people that love what they do. I'm less impressed by doing shit to like be busy, right? Like I don't think that like, I think people wear busyness as a badge of honor sometimes, and it's like, how about you evaluate like, is that busyness really worth the effort, and is it actually like bringing you to some place? And
Right.
instead of just having busyness as like you know, a vanity metric of like, I'm so busy, I'm, instead evaluate like, okay, is it the right type of busy, and is it
Are
bringing
you
me to like
productive?
level?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like I'm kind of over like the busy, like kind of like wearing busyness as like a cool thing,
That's
and
a
how
good
people
one.
kind of like they like
Yeah.
pin each other up against it. I'm busy, I'm so busy, you know. And
Yeah.
listen, I say I'm busy all the time, like I do, I'm like
You
also
are.
I'm like, I am busy, you know, but I also think, hey, I'm also like, damn, why am I so busy? But like, use that lens to understand if like the busyness is really worth it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. And we know you're busy because you have the Labubu videos. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Okay, so what's one thing you hope your kids remember about you?
I just hope they remember how much I love them. And like, obviously like my goal would be for them to like live in a better world because I was in it, and because I helped them be the best that they can be, you know? So like I think that like I I want them to feel so loved that they feel so confident to go out into the world to like live the best way that they can, and to create like change that the world needs.
That's so beautiful. Well, that's the end of my rapid fire questions, but I definitely have to ask you, what's the best gift you've ever received? A
I
tangible
mean, I say one of yours because it's the truth.
gift. Aw.
Honestly, I think that like when I received a like beautiful basket that had all of these like amazing, like
You were
very,
sick.
yes, I was
Hmm.
sick and I just got it in the mail as a surprise. It was so sweet. And and you know, it's funny, I think the reason why it was such a wonderful gift is because I'm always like taking care of people. And I'm always like thinking like, oh, what's, and as a publicist, I'm like, oh, we have to gift them something. We have to, you know, and I think that like I just don't really think about my like, it's just not like a priority to think about me, or, you
Hmm.
know, and I'm also like kind of hard to impress because like I also get like I get a lot of things that I just get because I'm in the
Yeah,
industry.
right.
But this, like opening this up at a time when I was like sick, I literally like had the
Hmm.
flu and the whole house was sick, and like you sent me this beautiful box and it had like tea and chicken soup which we made, and it was so like it was just so nice. I just felt taken care of. And I think that like
Oh,
as a
yeah,
woman who takes care of other people
yeah.
so much, it's like I don't like You know, that's like not something that normally like I don't get taken care of, and that's fine, but it's like it's just not something that like I'm used to. So I was like, oh my God, I feel so taken care of. And
Yeah.
that was really, really nice. And plus it was like beautiful. Plus I love beautiful things. I think that like
Mhm.
that's my love language. It's like you get to like unwrap something that's thoughtful and beautiful. And
Is gifting a love language for you? Like, what
so
is,
it's
do you have a love
oh, I
language?
have a
Do
love
you?
language, and I talk a
Okay.
lot about this in like business too. Yes. Okay, so my love language is but so my sister's love language is actually giving gifts. So I like which I love because I feel like that's like where you guys connect to. My love language, the way I like to receive love is actually quality time.
Mm.
If like you spend quality time with me, I'm like the happiest. And then the way I give love is usually acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
So those are
I
my
mean,
that's my love
that's
language.
it. It's in every fiber of your being. Like we can see this. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation,
Thank
and I
you.
can't wait to share it with, well, our Instagram communities.
Oh, I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome.